Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Monster Hunter Wilds video, and today we're going over everything you need to know about the bow. Now, the bow is one of 3 ranged weapons in Monster Hunter, and it's my personal favorite of the ranged options. Bow offers a very flashy playstyle that gives you a lot of mobility while allowing you to stay at a kind of safe distance from the monsters. It allows you to pump out a ton of damage, but also stay very survivable with your ability to dodge any incoming attack. If you're looking for a ranged weapon that is aggressive, fast, and flashy, the bow might be the weapon for you. So let's start with some very basics, and then we'll get into more and more complicated things as the video goes on. So the bow offers a lot of different abilities and attacks, and knowing when to use what attack is a really big part of playing bow. You've got different bread and butter combos that you're going to be kind of doing all the time, but also certain attacks that you can do when a monster's got a large opening, depending on the type of monster that you're fighting, and knowing when to piece these different combos together is a big part of playing bow. So to go over the very, very basics to start, bow, if you hit your left trigger button, will allow you to aim the bow. Obviously, you're going to want to be aiming the bow, and if you hit the right trigger button, you will start charging the bow. Now, understanding bow charge is very important because you're going to want to be firing your bow at its max charge as much as possible. So if you just tap the right trigger button, you will do a basic attack. And if you hold it down, you can charge up the bow. And if the bow is charged, you will fire additional arrows. Now, one of the ways to get your bow charged, rather than just standing there holding it, moving very slowly, is to dodge. Now, if you shoot and then dodge, you'll do something called a charging sidestep. And this will allow you to kind of bypass having to hold down the charge, as it will put you into the next charge of the bow. And once you get to max charge of the bow, you can continue to do charging sidesteps to stay at max charge, which allows you to deal the most damage possible. So if we shoot and then charge, and then shoot and then charge, you'll see my bow is red, and you want to do this quickly. Because if you wait too long, you won't get the charging sidestep. So a lot of the flow of bow is shooting and then dodging, and you'll see on that second one, I go yellow, and then once I'm in red, we'll stay in red as long as we are quickly dashing, and the yellow version will shoot 2 arrows, the red version will shoot 3 arrows. Now, one of the big kind of management things of bow is the fact that anytime that you're dodging and shooting, you're going to be draining stamina. So as you can see, if I'm just holding my shot here, I'm slowly draining stamina. And then every time that I'm dashing, I'm going to be draining my stamina. Now, you actually just saw that I got all of my stamina back there, and that is a big part of bow is its dodge. Now, if you dodge, you'd use a discerning dodge, which will make you immune to damage, but it'll also give you all of your stamina back. So while you're fighting with bow and you're doing your you're dodging and shooting, you're going to want to make sure that you don't hit your end of your stamina, because if you hit the end of your stamina bar, then you won't be able to attack. More importantly, you won't be able to dodge. So trying to play aggressive and have when the monster is about to hit you, being able to dodge will give you all of your stamina back, which allows you to keep up like 100% uptime on a monster. You can play super, super aggressive, and it allows for a really, really fun playstyle. Now, the next part of the bow combo, besides just shooting and dodging, is using a attack on your B button or your circle, which is Power Shot. Now, if you aren't charged or aren't doing any attacks, hitting the B button at default will do something called a Quick Shot that does a bit of damage, fires 3 arrows. However, if we hit the B button or circle when we are charged after a shot, we'll do something called a Power Shot, which is going to be firing 4 arrows for us. And so let's say we do our dodge, shoot, dodge, and then immediately after we shoot, we can do a Power Shot, and then you can go immediately into your charging sidestep. So it's shoot, Power Shot, dodge, shoot, power shoot, dodge, shoot, power shoot. And that is a very, very powerful kind of like bread and butter combo of bow, is doing these power shots The big thing to understand about doing your power shot is that is when you are more vulnerable. As you're doing your charging side steps, your recovery windows or your time that you like spend downtime before you can dodge again is very, very low. However, if you do power shot, there's a little bit of a delay on when you can dodge again. And so while it is big damage, if a monster is about to attack, a lot of the times that you'll get caught out is doing your power shot. So you want to make sure that you have a window of opportunity to do that. Now, if you do have an opening on a monster where you're a little bit safer, you can also do a combo with your charging with your charging sidestep and your power shot, where you extend the power shot, and that's just hitting the button again into a power volley. It is a little bit larger of a commitment of an attack, but if you do your charging into your power shot, you can follow that power shot up again by a power volley that just does even more damage than the power shot. It is something that, you know, if you're facing a super aggressive monster, it can be a little bit difficult because you're stationary and not able to dodge for a fair bit, but it is a ton of extra damage and you can dodge out of it. So if we do our power volley, we can dodge right after. You just got to make sure that you're not going to get hit while you're doing that longer animation. The other really important thing about dodging and doing the discerning dodge is it'll bring you from 0 charge level into immediately your full charge level. So it's a great way to not only keep your stamina up, but also keep up your damage, because you can do it to keep all of your combos going. So understanding the dodge and getting the timing down, which is a pretty generous timing window on bow, is a big part of staying alive, but also keeping your damage up. So now that you've got the basic combo down of bow, which is your charging sidestep and shooting, and then using your power shot when you have an opening on a monster and you don't think you're going to get hit, let's add to that combo with our tracer. Now, tracer arrows are a very important part of bow's kit, and you can kind of see your availability to use tracers in the bottom right, where it says power coding. We've got basically 3 like bars of that gauge, and each bar is a tracer that you can use. So right now, I've currently got 3 tracers that I can use marked by those icons. So when I use a tracer, it's going to expend that bar. We use that tracer, expend the bar, use that tracer, expend the bar. That's just for show. You only want to have 1 tracer on a monster at a time, as if you fire an additional tracer while another tracer is still up, it'll explode that tracer, basically kind of wasting it. But tracers are really cool because they're going to increase your damage against a monster, but also allow your arrows to target a area of a monster and kind of home to them. So let's say we want to target a monster's head. If we shoot an arrow at their head, and then we shoot and we're missing, or we're firing somewhere else, those arrows will home in and still hit their head. So if a monster's got a weak point, you can use this to basically guarantee that all of your arrows will not only be dealing more damage, but also be homing in on that weak point. Now, how do we get more charge? One of the ways to get kind of more of that gauge for your bow is by doing your charge and landing your attacks. As you're charging and landing, as you can see, let's just pump some tracers in. As we're shooting and landing hits on a monster and charging up our attacks, specifically like holding, we'll charge up a bunch. But a big thing is actually dodging. Dodging, when you land your dodge, will not only give you your stamina back, give you damage, but it'll also help you fill up your gauge, which is really kind of flows into the rest of the bow dance. And so you're going to want to keep your tracers up. And then when you're out of bar, you can use your dodging to keep up more tracers and more damage. The next thing that you can do with those tracers is at the end of their lifespan, after you pump a bunch of damage up into them, you can actually lock onto them if you're aiming and hit your right bumper, which is kind of your focus mode. You can shoot and kind of detonate the tracer. So as you can see, those like little circles fill up, which you want to make sure that when you're shooting this, you're like fully charged. And then we'll fire a bunch of arrows and detonate the tracer to kind of like a way to finish the combo. And another thing that you can do with your tracers is do your arc shot, which will stick a bunch of extra tracers into a monster. This is something that's getting nerfed for launch, but then you can basically have a ton of things to home in on and do a bunch of extra damage. The next thing to mention with our bow is our coatings. Now, coatings are very much changed in that you don't need to craft them from like your inventory anymore. Coatings work with our like bow gauge, and coatings will apply additional effects to your arrows. So different bows will come with different effects. Not every bow will come with the same effects, but by holding down kind of our item button, we can look at our different coatings. So this bow that we have right now has the option to use poison coatings and power coatings. Power coatings are really great because they're going to increase the damage of your arrows, but different arrows are going to have different effects. One thing that bow is really good at is it's great at taking advantage of elemental status effects and elemental damage that you can use for enemies. So putting on different elemental coatings to match the weaknesses of different monsters is a really good way to min-max your damage on bow. But with the coatings, if you have your bow out, it's as easy as just hitting the Y or triangle button, which, as you can see, loads up 8 shots into our bow. And now all of the shots that I'm firing here are going to have our power coatings, so they're going to be dealing extra damage. And you're going to want to try to have 100% uptime on your coatings when you're playing bow, because it'll drastically increase your damage effectiveness. And the kind of part of that is every time you put on a coating, you're going to be draining. And if you're using your tracers, you're going to be draining your bar. And so playing bow, landing your dodges, landing your hits so that you can keep up your bar is going to be really important, because you want those tracers, you want those explosives, you want those power shots. And if you can have all of those happening at the same time, that is when you're going to be reaching your maximum damage on bow. So those were kind of the basics of bow. Now let's talk about some of the more like elaborate attacks that bow can do. The first is a pretty simple one, honestly. It's a new attack added into Wilds, and that is your Flying Swallow Shot. After you dodge, you can do a jump attack with your triangle button that you can use to create a bunch of distance if you need to go back, if you need to go forward. It's kind of like a shotgun attack that will deal a bunch of damage. Just something you can use if you need to like move or do a bunch of damage on bow. As you can see, like the amount of distance that you can cover from going from a charge dodge into a flying swallow. If you need to reposition, you need to get around to the monster's like tail or its head. It's a great way to do a bunch of damage and also reposition. The next moves for bow are its Dragon Piercer and Thousand Dragons. Now, you use different these attacks kind of depending on the situation. So let's start with our Thousand Dragons. Thousand Dragons is a like shotgun attack that loads a bunch of arrows into our bow and does this kind of spray. And it's very, very, very powerful if you're up close to a monster. If you are far away from them, let's say we're back here, and we shoot, you'll see that it actually doesn't have the range to even hit. So it is a shotgun attack. However, if you combo it with a tracer, you can do a ton of damage and make sure those arrows hit. So now let's go back from that same place and fire, and now all of those arrows are hitting. So it is a shotgun-like attack. However, if you have a tracer into a monster, you can get all of that damage at a range, and it's a really, really powerful finishing move if you're doing your combos and the monster gets down, or you've got a large window of opportunity. The big thing to understand about Thousand Dragons is you do have a lot of like recovery frames where you're kind of like reeling backwards. You can cancel it out into a dodge, but that is kind of your first kind of combo ender or big damage move. The other is Thousand Dragons. Dragon Piercer. So the big difference with Thousand Dragons is you're going to need to be charging in order to activate it. So you need to start your charge in order to do it. For Dragon Piercer, you don't want to be charging at all. It's the same button press, just if you're charging or not charging. And Dragon Piercer will fire an arrow that pierces through a monster and will hit it multiple times. This is something that you want to use specifically on long monsters. If you're shooting from the tip of its wing to the tip of its wing, or from the head to its tail. Monsters that are really long or have large bodies will get hit by a lot more damage of this attack, as the arrow will proc more times on them. And it's also another thing that benefits from, tracers. It will follow tracers, and it does a ton of damage on those longer monsters. A little bit more situational than Thousand Dragons, because Thousand Dragons will work on like really well on whatever monster you're firing it at. But Thousand Dragons can do a bunch of damage at a very long range. The very last attack to mention is the arc shot. This will just put a bunch of arrows into a monster. From your aiming stance, you're going to want to charge and then hit the B button. This is like 2 tiers of it, so if you hold it down for a little bit longer, you will fire more arrows, and this arrows will stick into the monster. The primary way to use this is to give yourself a bunch of extra points to fire at with your charge arrow. However, once again, this is something that's getting nerfed on launch, as it'll take you a lot longer to allocate all of those arrows to detonate them. So I don't think it's a combo you need to worry about too much. However, you still are going to want to go into this mode and this charge mode to detonate wounds on monsters, which will do your one of your highest damage bow attacks is your wound break.
All right, now let's do a little bow combo. We're going to go through it at full speed, and then we'll break it down. So we're shooting and charging sidestep, shooting, charging sidestep, power shotting, and then we'll combo the power shot immediately into Thousand Dragons, which we can charging sidestep cancel out of, and then go back into our combo. Ideally, we would have had power coatings here to show this, but here we're starting with our Tracer. We are charging out of the Tracer, shooting, charging, shoot, power shot, and then we're going to charge, shoot, power shoot, and then from the power shot, we can combo that immediately into Thousand Dragons while our Tracer is still up, and then if we charging sidestep, we can cancel the recovery animation of that, and then go back into our charging sidestep and power shot combo.
Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you plan on using bow in Wilds. It's a super fun weapon. It's a weapon I've used in World and Rise, and it's looking really, really good for the launch of Wilds. That's going to do it for the video, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Peace.